Welcome back to Sonic Colors. Last time I finished up Tropical Resort, and this time I'm moving on to Sweet Sweet Mountain. Those with a keen eye, or those who have played this game before, will notice there are two wisps I haven't seen that are actually circling around this planet that I haven't visited. And there's a reason for that. As you can see, 3 of the 7 levels in this world are completed. I had a few recording errors, and after every single level you complete, guess what? It actually saves the game, which I'm not necessarily a big fan of, but that doesn't matter. Welcome to Sweet Sweet Mountain. This world, its aesthetic has grown on me over time, but I honestly still don't like it all that much, and maybe it's because I'm not a fan of all the brown used in this level, or all the... I don't know, the colors just aren't very bright and vibrant for me, and the colors that are bright and vibrant, the orange, I don't like orange to begin with, so when these colors are used all together, it's just an amalgamation of all these things I'm not very interested in. So, yeah, that's a thing. Also, over time, I used to really love sweets, but now I kind of try to avoid them for health reasons, just because, you know, I like my body, and honestly, when I eat sweets, I just, like, break out in pimples and stuff, and that's pretty gross. I'm not going to talk about that anymore, but the point is, I avoid sweets now, so this went from being a wonderland to something that I'm just kind of like, ooh, danger. But, that's just the way I see it. Other people love the aesthetic of this area, and they love the music, and the music's alright. I'm not a fan, though. Anyway, one of the 2 wisps that I unlocked that were in the levels that I played before previous recordings, oh my god, that probably wasn't the best way to say this. This is the drill wisp. Essentially, if you are on the ground or on a piece of ground that can be drilled into, and you shake the Wiimote, the drill wisp will actually throw you into that ground, let you drill into it, and it's pretty neat. You can actually reach a lot of really cool areas. You can go through pipes like this. Though you might notice, the boost meter actually turns into a yellow meter that goes down whenever you're using the drill wisp. There is a reason for that. It actually happened during my usage of the laser wisp, but it wasn't like big enough for me to actually talk about it. Essentially, your boost meter turns into somewhat of a meter to show how much wisp power you have left. Again, that happened with the laser wisp, but I didn't find it very important then, because really, a lot of the wisps in this game do actually use this meter, but they show you, the first wisp you see, laser, doesn't use it at all, so you might actually miss it if you're not paying attention. But this is a very important meter, because if you are in the ground and the meter runs out when you have drill wisp, that sucks, I got hit there, but whatever. If you are in the ground when you have drill wisp, and you run out of wisp power, you will actually instantly die, because the ground, as you drill through it, is actually closing back in on you, or in this case, cake. Wow, I meant to say, in this case, the cake that you're drilling through is actually, is just kind of caving in behind you. So essentially, you need to be very fast and use your drill wisp with caution, and don't get too caught up using your drill wisp and completely forget about the kind of timer that you have, because if you do, trust me, it will not end well. It's happened to me before. I actually came back to this game after a long time, and I actually ended up wasting all my drill, and just kind of died. But anyway, that's not important. You might have noticed already that there are some weird rocket-type things that are filled with jelly beans that are coming after me. Essentially, this is just a way to force you onto the lower path and kind of avoid these, because you will be running on straight lines, essentially, that have a higher and a lower path. If you stay on the upper path the entire time, those rockets will end up slamming into you, which is no good. But if you stay on the lower path whenever the rockets come by, then you should be perfectly fine. It's a pretty neat concept, and I really like the platforming in this section of the game. That being said, there are some sections in Sweet Sweet Mountain where the game starts to get a bit weird, a bit unfun. But anyway, let's hop right into Act 2. This level is actually pretty neat. Also, you might notice that with this level, we're actually starting off where Act 1 ended, so that's kind of a nice detail that they went with. Also, something I've completely ignored to talk about is there are 2 of Sonic's moves that are actually relegated to very specific sections. For example, something that was actually shown off in Tropical Resort that I forgot to talk about was the sidestep. That's only usable in specific sections. The drift is also only usable in specific sections, and that was shown off in the first acts of oh my god, Sweet Sweet Mountain. So that's a thing. Apparently a lot of people don't like it when that's done, or like the where the drift is relegated to specific sections, and I honestly can't see why, because the drift is nice, right? But in other modern Sonic games, you could use the drift whenever you wanted, same with the sidestep. Here's the problem, though, with everyone whining about, oh no, the drift and the sidestep are relegated to certain specific areas. It's just, I feel that was how it was done originally in every other modern Sonic game. Really, if you're not in a very straight, narrow passageway, you're not going to use the sidestep in any other modern Sonic game. Also, if you're not in this very obvious section where you're meant to use the drift, so like just a big turn in general, then you're not going to end up using the drift, like, ever, unless you're doing speedruns, because apparently the drift is used for speedruns. It's used to, like, I think, maintain your speed somehow. I'm not necessarily 100% sure. But I just don't think that it's necessarily a big deal that they're relegated to specific areas. And the only time I would say it's really a negative for the drift to be taken away from you in normal gameplay is when it's taken away completely, because that can negatively affect the actual level design. That's something that if you played Sonic Forces, you will know all too well. There were a lot of sections where you just had to stop boosting and just awkwardly turn around in the level, and I'm not a fan of that. But because the drift isn't taken away in this game, and it's only stuck in very specific sections, I don't find it to be a big deal. Anyway, I talked about in Tropical Resort the world map being somewhat strange. This is what I mean. Act 1 in Sweet Sweet Mountain is right here. We go to Act 2, okay. And then Act 3 opens up to the right of Act 1. So what was the point of going to Act 2 in the first place? Padding? I don't know. Anyway, let's go on to Act 3. Like I said, in Tropical Resort, the first 3 acts in a world are usually really dang good, and then the last 3 acts get kind of weak, and I'm not necessarily sure if that holds true just yet. I know for a fact Act 4 is not the best, but Act 3 I think is really fun. So, I like the level design in this area a lot, and that's specifically because there's a lot of really neat platforming here, or at least that's my opinion, I don't know. Also, the beginning is really fun to just boost through. That right there was the Rocket Wisp. Essentially, what you do is jump in the air, shake, and then hope you get as high as possible. And, I don't know, it's a fine power-up, it's nothing really that incredible, but I think it's pretty nice, and it allows you to get to higher paths a little bit easier. And if you mess up and there's I almost said Drill Wisp, if you mess up and there is a Rocket Wisp, and you want to get to a higher place, then guess what? If you fall down, you can just shake the Wiimote, and you'll be able to get up to that higher path. It's pretty neat. It's nothing crazy, though. There are a lot cooler wisps in this game, so it's just alright. It's not terrible, though. Something I'm going to talk about is when you actually get into these sections that are relegated, that only have, like, the... Oh, I'm having a problem speaking right now. If you're in a section that allows you to drift, that's the best way of saying that, then you will not be able to boost, because the drift, the boost, and these, not the sidestep, the drift and the boost use the same button, which is, It makes sense. They had to make it so that you could play the game with a Wiimote and nunchuck, or with just a straight Wiimote, so I understand them simplifying the controls a bit, but I don't know. That's just kind of annoying, and on certain occasions, if you're boosting, it can make it somewhat awkward when you transition. But honestly, they telegraph where those where the areas are gonna be. Come on. Anyway, they telegraph the areas very well that you're gonna be sidestepping in. So I think, not sidestepping, drifting. Jesus Christ, it's not that bad. Also, you might have noticed that I wasn't able to grab that 1-up. That's because after a certain amount of time on the results screen, Sonic is forced to stop moving and do his victory animation. So that 1-up is lost to the void forever. Fun. This is Act 4. Again, this is usually where a world stops being oodles and boodles of fun, and this is the only time I'll say, like, the world gets pretty bad. There's a lot of waiting, and I already talked about that in the previous episode, but it becomes apparent right here. What you have to do in these sections is you have to stand on these switches and wait for these laser balls, I guess you could call them, to... Apparently I can wall jump on that and completely ignore that laser ball type thing. The point is, you have to rotate them standing on these switches and wait for a path to open up. and this is not fun at all. I really don't enjoy this, but hey, if someone's into waiting platforming, that's fine. I just don't like it that much. Usually when playing a Sonic game, I like to go speeding Gonzales fast, but that's just how I feel. I could be completely wrong, but whatever. Alright, I had to leave for like an hour, so I have no idea no idea what is going on. Oh yeah, I was talking about how this level isn't that fun because it's very slow. Yeah, that hasn't changed. Now there's some platforms that you have to stand on these switches, and then they'll move up, and you have to avoid the lasers. So right here, as you no doubt see, I had to go to the far left side because there was a laser on the far right side. Same principle there. It's really... Wow, I can't believe I got hit by that egg pawn. It's really not that complicated of a process. Something you might notice are these blocks. These will come into play a lot later, not only with a Wisp, but also just level design as a whole gets kind of lazy in this game on occasion. And I'll still say the level design works well, but because creating assets for a game where Sonic just blazes through the levels in like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, in like 1 minute, is so difficult and time consuming, they ended up saying, you know what, forget making new assets. Let's just put some slow platforming in to make the level about 2 minutes long, and then after that, we can just place in random blocks. And I understand why some people think that's not a very good thing at all, because I also don't necessarily like them only placing blocks, because it is somewhat lazy. But when you think about the production of this game, and the production of a lot of modern Sonic games, asking for big expansive levels, or a lot of levels, is very difficult and very time consuming and very money consuming. You also have to remember this was made during a time when Sonic games were getting a whole bunch of flack, and this is probably like the game that ended the Dark Age for a lot of people. Though I assume, by the way, if you don't know what the Dark Age of Sonic is, I probably shouldn't talk about deep Sonic fanbase lore without really giving much explanation, but essentially there was a time when all of Sonic's games were bad. It started with Sonic 06. A lot of people believe that it began with Sonic Heroes. I personally don't think that. Sonic Heroes isn't a bad game, so I don't think it began with Sonic Heroes, but some people do believe it began with Sonic Heroes, which is fine. Everyone has their own taste in game, but I think it started with Sonic 06, and after that, it just started going downhill. There was the storybook games. I honestly think Black Knight was just fine. Not fantastic, but just fine. I'm on the final boss of that game, and I enjoyed my time with it. The last few levels are kind of annoying, and the level design isn't very good, but I don't think it's a terrible game by any means, like a lot of people say. I think it's just pretty alright. I don't like swinging your Wiimote for the sword. Then again, I don't really like when you're forced to use motion controls. So, that's a thing. This right here, you pretty much jump onto it or homing attack onto it. Essentially get speed, and then it will spin or pseudo-spin, and it will throw you in the correct direction. Essentially just boost into them if you're good enough for that. I just messed it up. You pretty much just want to swing, jump when you've landed on the correct, or gotten close to the correct area you want to go to. Right here, it doesn't really matter which platforms you land on, because... Okay, that's fine. It doesn't really matter what platform you land on, because either way, you will be getting to the right area. I'm making a bit of a mistake, because it is kind of awkward the way this is done. Essentially, if you boost into it, right... Oh, that's close. That was very, very close. If you boost into it, whichever direction you're facing is the direction you'll actually jump off on. For me, I was facing in the wrong direction, trying to jump off at the wrong time. Hopefully I explained that pretty well. I've noticed that I think I explained something well, then I actually go back to editing the video, or go into editing the video, and I realize, wow, I didn't explain that very well, and I'm very sad now, because I can't explain it well in text either. I don't know. That's just what I've found. Sorry if that was a bit of an awkward explanation, but with that, that is Act 5 done? I almost said Episode 5. No, this is only Episode 3 of the Let's Play. And with that, that should be enough time. I've done more than half of this world. There's only going to be 2 levels in the next world, which will probably leave a lot of time open for Gameland. So if you don't care about that, next episode will be exceedingly short. But that's that. Thank you for watching this episode of Sonic Colors. You might notice that there's a lack of cutscenes in this episode, and that is not because I skipped over them or I don't know, I just didn't, because what happened, okay, sorry, I'm going all over the place. What happened is I did a few levels off screen on accident. There were no cutscenes in between that though, so Tropical Resort was really the only cutscene heavy world so far, so I just wanted to kind of point that out in case anyone was wondering, you know, like, oh, what happened, you know, why weren't there any cutscenes? But anyway, enough of that. Thank you for watching, and next time we're going to finish up Sweet Sweet Mountain and probably do a whole bunch of Gameland levels, since it's going to be a what, 5-second episode with only these 2 levels. Anyway, until then.